Good evening, good evening, good evening. There we are. Good evening. I know we have midnight prayer shortly. And if you don't know, I was on vacation and we had a whole bunch of delays. So I said I am going to jump on and do walking through the Bible as soon as my tablet is charged. Hey, Sister Lorna, how you doing, Minister? Good evening. Good evening. Okay, so I have walking through the Bible, and mine is Habakkuk chapters 1 through 3, which is actually the whole chapter. And this was a very interesting read, actually. I've heard of a couple verses that are in Habakkuk, and I just whenever I do the walk through the Bible, I like to try to take like the whole history and get a good preference or a good understanding of what that person that was writing was actually dealing with. And this was quite interesting. Habakkuk had a whole thing where instead of him talking to the people, it was literally a conversation between him and God. So this the whole book of Habakkuk is a conversation between the prophet and God. And I don't know about any of you, but I sit there and I talk to God all the time and I be asking him questions because sis needs to know. Okay. And his daughter is asking questions. So I'll be like, Dad, so what exactly is going on here? Because I need to understand. And so this is basically what Habakkuk is doing. He is trying to get a good understanding of what God's plan is and what's going on. And one of the things that he definitely addressed was the fact that there was a lot of injustice from the children of Israel, like God's people were acting crazy. And then he also was realizing that they were falling really heavy into the idolatry, which was, that was a whole thing. But what ends up happening is not only were they um like going through crazy, and the people that were supposed to be, the just ones were now unjust. And that sounds very familiar. So I'm going to point out a couple of verses, obviously, through this. One of the things that with Habakkuk that he did, it was a journey basically that we get to see the journey of a prophet and him gaining his faith back and trusting in God and in God's plan, knowing that God is sovereign. And I believe that it is very important for us to even know that right now, that God is sovereign, no matter how we feel about what's going on wrong in this world, or even what's going on wrong in our situation, that God is sovereign and he's always going to make sure that righteousness will prevail and that his truth will prevail over all. So chapter 1, one of the things is verse 4. It says, the law has become paralyzed and there is no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. And I'm telling you, when I was reading this, God's word is definitely infinite and it's always relevant, like right now. It's injustice going on in this world and we have no idea like why it's going on. And so this prophet is crying out to God, like, yo, the people who are supposed to be doing justice, they're not even just. Like, how are we going to be able to do that? Like, God, how can I trust you? Like, do you see what's going on? So basically Habakkuk is like, God, are you paying attention? Like, the people who are supposed to carry out the law are unjust. So God's reply is, look around at the nations. Look and be amazed, for I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe, even if someone told you about it. And I don't know about you. Hey, Pastor Tamika. Hey, Kasim. I don't know about you, but that verse, that's chapter 1, verse 5, it gave me so much peace because God said, I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe, even if someone told you about it. And you know what? I said, God, you always know what's going on. Like, you always are in control. You always know. But here's the thing, his reply is, I'm raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people, and they will march across the whole world and conquer other lands. Now, of course, Habakkuk was like, hold on. Because he does in chapter in verse 12, the same chapter. He goes, wait a minute, God, how you gonna raise up somebody that's evil, more evil than us, and to bring correction and judgment on your people? Like, are you going to wink at them? He actually says that in verse 13. He said, are you going to wink at their sins and at their treachery? Are you just going to be silent at their wickedness? Like, he's asking God, like, hold up, what are you talking about, sir? I'm not trying to be, absurd or anything, or I'm not trying to be insubordinate, but geez, Lord, what are you talking about? How you gonna raise up somebody evil? Like, they are terrible people. So God's reply to him is, listen, write this very plainly. He goes into the next verse. The next chapter. He said, write this plainly, write it on tablets, send it by a messenger so that they can know. I'm not going to let them continue to just be terrible. But this is my judgment against Israel for their idolatry. This is my judgment. This is the way I'm going to do it. And then look at the proud, they will be struck down. That's what he says in verse 4 of chapter 2. So he's just like, you know what? I know that it may seem like evil is prevailing. I know it may seem like, that the way the judgment is coming, it doesn't look like my hand is in it, but my hand is in it. Now, this is not like always the rule, but sometimes it says, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Sometimes you have to see what's going on for you to actually know, you know what, maybe I was better with God. Now, for somebody that's going to hit home, I already know it because I felt it. You're sitting there thinking like, oh God, I want this to change, I want that to change, but you're not actually making a change. So then he go ahead and he allows, evil or whatever to have his way because you didn't put yourself in a bad position. Hello, somebody. And then you're like, well, wait, God, I think your way was better. And yes, his way is always better because he's sovereign. So I just thought that was a little funny. He says verse 3, he said the vision is for a future time. It describes the end and it will be fulfilled. Even if it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place and it will not be delayed. God's time is perfect. His timing is perfect. It may seem like it's delayed, but God is always going to make sure that what he wants to happen will happen in the timing that he has, predestined it to be. And I know that the prophet, he was having a hard time. And if you're honest, you're having a hard time sometimes, just like, God, I need it to happen now. Like, I want to witness your glory now. I want to witness my victory right now. But we have to have that faith in God. It has the Bible said have the God kind of faith. We have to have the faith in God, and this is what Habakkuk was learning, to have the faith in God that even when things seem crazy, God, you are infinite and you are wise and you are going to make everything work out together for my good. So and he keeps on going. Basically, he writes a whole thing. One of the verses that I thought was really great was chapter 2, verse 14. It says, for as the waters fill the sea and the earth be filled with the awareness of the glory of the Lord. And so as the water fills the sea, the earth will be filled with an awareness of the glory of the Lord. And I was like, you know what? No matter what is going on, God, the people, this world will be aware that God will get the glory. No matter how crazy it seems like it is. It says though sorrow awaits you, and though your neighbors are drunk, you will know that there is the glory of God. And I was like, you know what? No matter what's going on, God, the glory of God is going to come through even the craziest of situations. And the next chapter, which is probably a couple of my last verses, Habakkuk, he writes a song to the Lord and a prayer. The prophet goes to the Lord. He was like, you know what, God, you're right. I have heard all about you, Lord, and I am filled with all of your amazing works. And this time of our deep need, help us again as you did many years gone by. And your anger in your anger, please remember your mercy. Now I'm reading from the New Living Translation because I thought it was very relatable. But um this is what the prophet's prayer was to the Lord. This is what his desire was to the Lord. After God told him all of the stuff that he's going to do and how powerful he is and that his glory was going to prevail, he said, you know what, God, I've heard all about you and I'm filled with awe about you. Meaning his faith was reignited in the Lord, even though he had not seen it come through yet. Because God told him, look, this is for a future time and it may delay, but it is going to happen. He said, you know what, God, I see you moving across the deserts and I see you. You are the Holy One. And so he goes into a complete praise after God explains to him, look, I'm in control. And I believe if we apply that same Habakkuk had by him learning about who God was, and even though God may be angry at things that people do, he's still going to make sure that his glory and that his will and his timing is going to happen. So I believe that this was a very informative read. So if you have time, if you haven't read it yet, go ahead and read it. Listen to it if you have to. You have to hear the words of the prophet. It is literally put in here to encourage us about what God is and who God is, and that we have to trust his timing. And then so one of the notes I wrote here is that we the prophet was teaching us how to have faith, that despite God's idea of judgment for the people, evil will never win. And that's what we have to understand. God is a just God. That is one of his qualities, is a just God. And it will happen in the timing that it's supposed to. Despite the world going crazy, God, his glory will be seen. And you as the children of Israel and you as his inheritance will always be safe in his arms. You all have a wonderful night and stay tuned because in about 45 minutes, we have midnight prayer. I love you all. You have a wonderful night. Pastor Tamika Kasim and Pastor Lorna, love you so much. I will see you all in Cyber World another day. Love you. Mwah.